So how did you overcome your clinical depression when you were going through and you were actively playing at that point of time as
I
well?
was.
So how did you manage both? How did you get through it? Because I know it might be a very low point in your life at that point of time because you're playing also and there's something going on also. How did you push through that?
Well, for me, it was I had an incredible counselor. I had someone who kind of helped me through that whole period. Very grateful to my mum and an aunt of mine who's passed on, who put me on this counselor, and to this day is my counselor. So anytime I need help, I reach out to her. She's a wonderful lady, and I think the secret of a good counselor is. And if anyone wants to understand what a good counselor is someone who will get you out of your own way and empower you to figure out solutions for yourself.
True.
A good counselor is not someone who will uh, give you solutions.
Yeah.
A good counselor is someone who will literally move you out of your own way and empower
Empower
you
you.
and help you figure out, okay. And then you'll be like, hey, I landed on this myself. And this is so cool. And that's so empowering. And for me, my counselor did that. And I'm entirely grateful to her. And she's one of someone that I hold very dear to my heart today.
And since you talk about it openly, what would you like to tell the people who you know? Like for example, if you see your friend, like you know that they're going through maybe depression or they're getting into it, or what would you suggest them to make sure that because at an early stage, even you don't know you're going through it, but people around you who are close to you can figure out
Yeah,
sometimes.
100%. Dhruv, as in, I think that's I know what you're getting
Yeah.
at, and I think sometimes the person actually going through it isn't even aware. I wasn't aware, and I think I kind of felt something was wrong when I was in South Africa playing the second IPL, and I was not doing well. Something happened where we were not used to this in cricket, where in cricket when you play for a team, you're extremely loyal to that one team. So I was one of the first people in the IPL to get transferred from one team to the other. And my transfer happened 3 weeks before the second IPL began in South Africa. So for me, it was very, very like strange. And I think I was already struggling through a lot of personal issues at home. And for me, this kind of tipped me over to the other side. And I'm scared of heights. And I find myself in this South African hotel. My room's in the 21st or 22nd floor. And for some reason, the window's open all the way out. And I've opened the window and I'm sitting with my legs out of
On the window.
Yeah, on the windowsill. I'm sitting on the 21st, 22nd floor. I'm like, this is interesting. I'm not scared. I'm not feeling anything. And I was actually quite numb. And then I sat there for about 20 minutes, half an hour. And then I came back into the room and I was like, something's not right. I should call my parents here. I should just call my family here. And as dysfunctional as my family was, I actually called them over because they were my only support system. So I called my mom and dad and my sister over and they came to South Africa. I kind of got through the IPL and that's when they realized that something was wrong with me. So I think, and then I went to my counselor. My mom and my aunt took me to the counselor and then I started working on myself. But it wasn't a short journey. I think one of the things that I'd like to say at this point is that empathy is not something that's easily available in the world today. I think we live in a world where we like to take people down, where we're very we're varied on what we believe. It's two opposites. We live in a world where it's hard to just agree to disagree with each other.
Yeah.
I wish we come back to a world where we don't have to agree on everything, but we just agree to disagree.
Disagree.
And I think in doing so, we'll get to a place where there's more empathy in the world. Right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a massive lack of empathy in the world today. And if I can play a part in that, I'd love to. And that's something that I want to do in my life post-cricket. Having said that, I think if you can empathize with say, my brother's going through, I see him going through depression or I see him not being okay. Hey, are you okay? It's been a few days and I noticed that you seem a little down. Do you want to talk about it? And is there something that's going on? Just to ask that question, would go a long way in someone just figuring out, if something's wrong or not. How do you help? What can we do to help? I think even the taboo of, I think it's not here in Dubai, but in India, it's still a taboo to reach out to. I remember when I went to a counselor, It's like, don't tell anyone you're going to a counselor. It doesn't look good, especially because you play a sport, And I've always tried to kind of break that barrier down, and I've always spoken about my mental health because I just want to break that barrier down. A lot of people today, I think, especially after the pandemic, people kind of feel like they're going through depression.
But that's actually not.
But it's not depression.
Yeah.
You go through difficult times in life, but it's not
It's
depression.
loneliness, probably.
It's loneliness. It could be
Yes.
something else, but it's
Yeah.
not depression. Depression is very, very different. Depression is actually a biochemical deficiency in the brain.
Yeah.
It's if you look at it from that point of view, it's the most general kind of thing that indicates that is the lack of production of serotonin in your brain, right? In the pineal gland, and there's no serotonin reuptake that happens. So you need to take medication for that, and you can't muck around with the medication as well. And I did that. I mucked around with the medication. So I took medications for the first 2 months. I was advised to take medication. And we tried to work through counseling. I did a couple of months of counseling, and then I felt better, and I stopped going to my counselor. And then it hit me back. And then I went back to her after 3-4 months again, and I continued going to her. And then we just got to a point where, when we went through my life, we realized, okay, there's a lot of things that he has to deal with. So there's a lot of trauma through childhood and all of that. And then so you kind of she put me onto a psychologist who recommended medications and all that. So I started doing the medications. And after taking the medications, I felt as good as gold in a month, Dhruv. And then after that, I was like, I'm fine. I don't need to take this anymore. You know that Indian mentality,
Yes.
or just that
Once
subconscious
you're done, you're
mentality.
done.
Like, they have given you antibiotics a course for a week. You take it for 4 days and you feel better. And you're like, I'm done, man. I don't need to finish the course.
Yeah, true.
That mentality kicked in for me, and I think it's a very wrong mentality. I think, and I think I learned that the hard way, because when I stopped taking the medication for a month, I fell back into depression, but this time in a very, very, very bad state. It kind of quadrupled the intensity that I was feeling. It felt so low. I didn't feel like getting up off the bed. It just didn't feel right for a long time. So I went through being like that for a good period of time before I started taking my medication again. And I think I recognized I had clinical depression in 2009. I actually came out of it, I think, in 2015.
Wow, that's
So
a lot of years.
it was a long process.
Yeah.
And you need to be diagnosed right. You need to take the right medication. You need to have you have to have multiple opinions. Don't just go to one psychologist. Find a right counselor, which is why I spoke about, what a good counselor does.
Yeah.
I think that's also very important, because people don't understand how do you define a good counselor. So it's important to understand what a good counselor is. Even if you go to a psychologist for medications, make sure you are taking multiple opinions, because if more than 1 or 2 or 3 people are saying, okay, you need to take this medication, then okay, the consensus is right.
Yeah.
Because you are taking stuff that's going to change the biochemistry of your mind, right, in your brains. So you want to make sure you're taking multiple opinions before just popping
up, yeah.
That can have lasting impacts on you. And you need to take it for a long period of time. And for me, that's, I think, one of the mistakes I made as a kid when I had epilepsy. Because epilepsy, again, was very new in India at that point in time. This is in the early 90s, late 90s. So I went to one doctor who was treating epilepsy, and no second opinion. And I just started taking these steroids. I don't even know if they worked or not, because eventually I went to a natural healer, and I took that medication for 4 months and then stopped, and then I weaned off that medication, and I've never had an epileptic attack after that. So I don't know
which
what
one
worked.
worked.
That's why it's so important, I think,
to have second
and multiple opinions, right? Because
yeah.
It gives you, again, nothing guarantees success, but gives you the best chance to be successful with what you're trying to do there. Yeah, and for me, the steroids actually impacted my growth. Yeah. For me, my torso, or my limbs are longer than my torso. So I lost a little bit of height along the way, and slowed down my metabolism completely. Because at that crucial age between 10 and 13, when you're kind of growing into becoming a teen, I started taking these steroids, and they were progressively higher in dosage till I, stopped. My mom said, okay, now let's stop this. Let's find a natural way. And then we did the natural way, and it worked.